There are two tales waiting for you, told one after the other by an odd set of two. So prepare yourself, dear one, because this is Drops of Darkness.
Hello, I'm Anodyne Vaughn, and welcome to our show where each week we give you a new original dark fiction story written and narrated by yours truly, followed by a true paranormal experience narrated by my co-host, Cameron Helkuik. Today we're getting a glimpse at where some questionable life choices can leave you in this week's dark fiction story, Stuck. And after that, Cameron has a true story about why you should never offend a ghost, no matter how familiar it may be. So, ready or not, let's get into it. Stranger and someone are waiting. I am Stranger, and I tell only fantasies. Whenever your world has a grip on your throat, I am there, waiting to unleash the monsters that sleep in my mind, so that they may remind you that you have sharp teeth and claws of your own. Jack was an awful thief. He tried his best, but 16-year-olds are rarely masters at anything yet. He couldn't pick a lock or hotwire a car. He wasn't stealthy or quick-fingered, but he found he didn't need to be a great criminal or even a decent one to bring home a wad of cash whenever his mother's worried face gave away how far ends were to meeting. Because for every house with some fancy security system, there were 5 houses so easy to break into that it barely felt like what he was doing counted as breaking in at all. There might not be the big-ticket items in those houses, no diamond jewelry or high-end clothes, but almost everyone these days had an iPad, or smartwatch, or video game consoles. Jack tugged his hood farther over his face and checked over both his shoulders before walking up the empty, oil-stained driveway. He'd been staking out the little blue house over the last few days. It seemed like the perfect target. The beat-up old truck stayed parked out front during the day, but was barely ever there at night. So Jack made the reasonable assumption that the man who lived there worked nights. It was 1:30 in the morning, and the truck never returned earlier than 8 a.m., so there was more than enough time to get in and out, especially for someone with a key. The teen's hidden face split into a flat smile as the front door swung open without so much as a squeak. Maybe he wasn't as bad at this after all, he thought. He placed the plastic hide-a-key rock back in its spot by the welcome mat and stepped inside, quite pleased with himself. Not even the warped floorboards made a sound under his stolen sneakers. Jack scanned the cluttered living room and slipped the strap of his tattered backpack off his shoulder. Takeout boxes and crushed cans littered the corners. Squashed piles of old laundry covered a spotty brown sectional sofa, leaving a single space open right in front of the TV. Jack wrinkled his nose at the smell of mildew and moldy leftovers. He pulled his t-shirt over the bottom half of his face and started looking for anything worth stealing before he had a chance to regret his life decisions. It took a few minutes of digging, but his efforts paid off. Too easy, Jack chuckled, loading a laptop, an Xbox, and a PlayStation into his bag before shrugging it onto his back. Eager to get back out into air that smelled less greasy, he spun on his heel and made for the front door. With his bag full enough to help with this month's bills and next, he contemplated what he was going to get from the Quickie Mart on the way home. A blue slushie, maybe, or a hot dog off the rollers if they had any left. It was dark in the house, and he didn't see the sharp corner of the glass coffee table, but he felt it when it slammed into his shin. In what little light streamed in through the windows, he watched a pair of beer bottles teeter near the table's edge before clattering to the floor. For a few painfully long seconds, Jack froze, waiting and listening. Jack finally breathed out a sigh of relief. Okay, it's fine. There was no one home, he reminded himself, and neither his leg hitting the table or the bottles made a sound. But then something behind him did, and he knew exactly what it was the moment he heard it. The sound of a shotgun chambering around. A chill spread over his body. Air snagged in his lungs. He could have sworn his heart flew out of his chest that very moment. A black haze circled the edge of his vision as a cold panic racked his body with tremors. "I see him." A woman's voice. It sounded so far away. It was dark. Maybe if Jack acted quick, he could duck down and get out. He got ready to drop. "You're stuck here, aren't you?" The woman's voice wasn't unkind. It was soothing even, like his mother's, gentle and sweet, as if at any moment she might try to lull him to sleep. He made a break for the door in the dark. By sheer luck, he grabbed the handle on the first try, but even under both of his hands, it refused to turn. That's when he noticed that something was very wrong with the door, or more specifically, the door's window, which before let in a weak stream of orangey red light from the single street lamp. But now, all there was black. The cement steps outside disappeared into a slow swirling fog that dropped off into the darkness. "You don't belong here, Jack." The voice was much closer now. He looked down at his shoes, not wanting to look out the window again and not wanting to face what he was sure would be the barrel of a shotgun. "I'm sorry," he sputtered, tears streaming down his cheeks. "I can see the blood now. You must have been so scared, Jack." His shirt felt wet. It clung to the front of him. The room and everything in it churned. A blinding flash from the end of a shotgun barrel ripped through the darkness. When Jack could see again, he saw the body on the floor by the table. Its bloody chest bulged into the air as it laid over a full backpack. He looked at the dead body that was wearing his hoodie, his ripped jeans, his stolen shoes. He felt himself flicker like a short circuit about to go out. "5 years ago, you broke into this house," said the voice. "You must have thought the man who lived here was gone, but his truck was just in the shop, and he heard you. He didn't give you a warning. He didn't know you were just a kid. You were an intruder in his home, and he ended your life. I've been called in by the new owners of this house. They see you reliving that night over and over. They asked me to help you move on, Jack." The woman's voice was louder now and clearer. The room began to shimmer. Its edges started to blur. A warm hand gently pressed into the hole in his chest. "No, I need to get back to my mom. She's going to wonder where I am in the morning. I need to go." The TV switched on, bathing the living room in a bright light from the static. In plain view, he saw his own face, splattered with blood. His blue eyes half open and unmoving. Jack wailed in horror and scrambled backwards away from his corpse on the rug. He felt the front door behind him, but only for a brief moment before he pushed himself through and into the fog-laced emptiness at the end of the stairs. He screamed for his mother as he stumbled away from the house, but the darkness was so quiet. He screamed until blood trickled out of his shredded lungs. He stood on the street. Jack tugged his hood farther over his face and checked over both his shoulders before walking up the empty, oil-stained driveway. He'd been staking out the little blue house over the last few days. It seemed like the perfect target.
Hello, everyone. In between stories, we like to highlight a cause that is worth our collective attention. It's Pride Month, and we want to give a huge shout out to Lambda Legal, an incredible nonprofit that has been fighting for the civil rights of LGBTQ plus individuals and everyone living with HIV for over 40 years. From landmark court cases to advocating for policy changes, Lambda Legal is on the front lines ensuring equality and justice for all. You can find out more and donate at www.lambdalegal.org or from the link on our website at dropsofdarkness.com. Now, back into the shadows we go.
I am someone, and I tell only truth. Whenever something slithers through the barrier between worlds, I am there, not to stop them, but to watch them and remind you of the countless terrors your kind has survived, all on their own.
This story was submitted by Belladonna Moth, whose Reddit handle is listed in the episode's description. This happened a few years ago. I would have been around 19, 20 at the time and living with my best friend, who, for as long as I can remember, has had a ghost following her. It has messed with me in the past, but never anything like this. Just doing shit to scare me, but that's another story. One night, we decided to get drunk and watch ghost movies. About halfway through our second movie, we get the bright idea to start antagonizing her ghost. Yeah, I know, super smart. And we start saying all kinds of stupid stuff like, I bet you don't have the ghost balls to do that, or I bet you aren't even real, etc. After the movies, we go to bed and forget about it until the next night. It's around 11 p.m. She's at work, and I'm home. She has an Anatolian shepherd that's about 150 pounds, and I hear him freaking out, full-on terrified screaming. I rush out of my room to see him pinned between the open laundry room doors and her metal bar chairs. I start freaking out, trying to figure out how he got stuck because I know for a fact I closed the doors, because if I didn't, our cats would get stuck behind the washer. And he never messed with the chairs. After I get him unstuck, he starts growling at the corner in the dining room, teeth bared, hackles raised, and he pushes me down the hallway away from the room. He will not let me pass him, but I have to go check the doors and make sure they're locked. So I put him in my room at the other end of the hallway, which he is not happy about, and I go to check the doors, and sure enough, they're all locked with the deadbolts in place. As I'm walking back to my room, I get a notification on my phone from our Ring camera telling me there's someone at the door. I open the app, but don't see anyone. I only hear clicking, like someone is tapping on the microphone. I look out the window and don't see anyone. And when I walk away, I get another notification and hear the tapping noises again. This happens multiple times, and I'm just standing there staring at my phone, wondering what the fuck is going on. Then it clicks. It has to be the ghost. I don't even know what to do, because how do you protect yourself from a pissed off and antagonized ghost? At this point, I'm fucking terrified. I'm home alone with my roommate still in training guard dog, and I can't get a hold of her because she can't have her phone on while at work. And she won't be home until after 2 a.m. So I rush back to my room and hide with her dog until she gets home. After she gets home, I'm still feeling pretty shaken up, so I tell her, let's go to your room. I have to tell you what happened, because I did not want to be anywhere near the dining room or kitchen. When we get to her room, her alarm clock is thrown from across the room directly at her feet. She just looks at me like, what the fuck, dude? So instead we go to my room and I tell her everything that happened. She ended up sleeping in my room that night, although I didn't get much sleep because I 100% believed it would invade my dreams. The next day, we did some cleansing and heavy apologizing.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Drops of Darkness, which is written, voiced, and produced by Anodyne Vaughn and Cameron Helkuik. If you enjoyed your drift into the shadows, help keep the stories alive by sharing the show, leaving a review, and if you really want to earn the favor of these dark storytellers, tether yourself to their world by tapping subscribe. If you have a true paranormal story of your own that you'd like to be read by someone, you can make the offering to submissions@dropsofdarkness.com or through the form on our website. Until next time, dear one, and remember, when the darkness looks your way, hold it